The nuclear threshold, predicting day zero. I'm Ro for The Real Shift. And today's deep dive is to follow up on the decisions made to end this conflict in Iran and what are the ramifications going forward.
Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. And it says it loud and clear. They're not going to develop it. They're not going to buy it. They're not going to do anything with it. And if they do, they suffer unbelievable consequences. Not just a little bit like, I won't even tell you the consequences, but the consequences are the ultimate consequences. And with that being said, I hope we have a very good relationship. But the biggest thing is they will not have a nuclear weapon. And that's the reason I got in, and that's the reason I agreed to sign. You talk about regime change. I never cared about regime change. It's never a part, but I guess you have regime change because you know better than anybody. The first group, they're all dead. The second group, they're dead. A part of the third group is gone. And we're dealing with people that I think are very rational people.
For years now, there has been speculation among diplomatic and defense circles that Iran is secretly building a nuclear bomb. This speculation surfaced once again when the US struck Iran's nuclear facilities in June, including Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo. Natanz and Fordo are Iran's uranium enrichment sites, and Isfahan is the site that provides the raw materials. Now, even though Iran has repeatedly claimed that all its nuclear programs are peaceful in nature, even the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, has refused to guarantee the same. Here, it becomes important to understand what uranium enrichment actually is and how it can ultimately be used to create a nuclear weapon. First, we need to understand what it means to enrich uranium. And to understand that, we need to know about uranium isotopes and about how an atom splits in a nuclear fission reaction. We all know that atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Uranium has a fixed number of protons, 92, but there are different varieties of uranium, all with 92 protons but different numbers of neutrons. These different versions of the same atom are what we call isotopes. Now, there are broadly two main isotopes of uranium. One is uranium-238, which has 92 protons and 146 neutrons. And the other is uranium-235, with 92 protons and 143 neutrons. Of these two isotopes, uranium-238 makes up 99.27% of all naturally occurring uranium, while uranium-235 is just 0.072%. And this is where the main challenge lies when using uranium for a nuclear program. Nuclear power reactors and nuclear weapons work only on the uranium-235 isotope because it's the only one that can sustain a chain fission reaction, the process that produces energy. This is where enrichment comes in. Uranium enrichment basically means taking naturally found uranium and increasing the proportion of uranium-235 by removing uranium-238. For what we call a peaceful nuclear reaction, just 3 to 5% uranium-235 is enough to sustain a chain reaction and produce electricity. But to make a nuclear weapon, uranium-235 needs to be enriched to at least 20%. This is called highly enriched uranium. Coming back to Iran's nuclear program, the IAEA says Iran has already enriched large quantities of uranium to 60%, and from this point, Tehran can relatively easily go up to 90% enriched uranium, what we call weapons-grade uranium. This is why Iran is considered at extreme risk of producing nuclear weapons, keeping the entire Middle East, especially Israel and Saudi Arabia, and even the United States, in a constant state of tension, fearing that Iran may soon emerge as a nuclear weapons state.
Imagine waking up to a global market freeze. The headlines aren't reporting a new trade deal or diplomatic summit. They are reporting that Iran has just conducted its first successful nuclear test. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario for a Tom Clancy novel anymore. The technical window for this event has shrunk from years to months and now to mere days. While the general public is still debating if Iran will go nuclear, the global intelligence community has shifted its focus to a much more urgent question: when? Today we are looking at the data to predict day zero. This is the moment the nuclear threshold is crossed. We're going to analyze why the year 2026 has become the focal point for every major intelligence agency from Langley to Tel Aviv, and what specific signals will tell us that the point of no return has arrived. The technical sprint. To understand the when, we first have to understand the what. In the world of nuclear proliferation, everything starts with fuel. For years, the international community focused on the 3.67% enrichment level, the standard for civilian power, then jumped to 20% today. Iran has moved past the 60% enrichment mark at an industrial scale. To put that in human terms, they are now just a literal turn of a key away from weapons-grade material. But here is the nuance you need to understand. Fuel isn't a bomb. Think of it like having a massive tank of high-octane gasoline but no engine to put it in. You have the potential for combustion, but you don't have a vehicle yet. The world's eyes are currently fixed on the Fordo and Natanz facilities. These aren't just factories, they are fortresses buried deep within mountains. The most critical signal we are tracking isn't a speech or a treaty, it's the inspectors. Currently, the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, maintains a degree of oversight. However, if we see a sudden unannounced expulsion of inspectors or technical blackout of surveillance cameras at these sites, that is signal number one. It means the countdown has started, and Iran is now at the point where they can produce enough fuel for a warhead faster than the Western can physically react. The delivery system, the missile gap. Now, having the fuel is only half the battle. To actually project power, Iran needs a delivery system that can bypass the most advanced missile defenses in the world. This is where the narrative shifts from chemistry to engineering. You may have seen headlines about Iran's civilian space program. To the casual observer, it looks like a country trying to join the space race. But to a ballistic missile expert, a satellite launch vehicle is a stalking horse. For an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, the physics require to put the satellite in orbit or nearby or nearly identical to the physics required to drop a warhead on the city thousands of miles away. If they can reach space, they can reach your doorstep. What we are watching for now is a specific technical hurdle called a re-entry vehicle. It's one thing to launch a missile. It's another thing to entirely ensure that the delicate nuclear hardcore hardware doesn't burn up or break apart when it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere at Mach 20. When you see Iran testing new heat shield materials or conducting atmospheric simulations, they aren't looking at the stars. They are perfecting the final piece of the nuclear puzzle. The political shift, fatwa. Third pillar is perhaps the most overlooked, yet it is the most telling. The political and religious threshold. For over a decade, Iran's leadership has painted a fatwa, a religious decree issued by the supreme leader, which supposedly forbids the production of nuclear weapons as un-Islamic. This has been the regime's primary diplomatic shield. But look closely at the rhetoric coming out of the Tehran lately. The language is changing. Top advisors and former officials have begun publicly stating that if the existence of the regime is threatened, Iran's defense doctrine will change. In the world of geopolitics, words are precursors to action. When the rhetoric shifts from "we will never" to "we might have if pushed," the political threshold has already been crossed. They are preparing their own population and the global stage for the inevitable. They are moving the goalposts so that when day zero arrives, they can frame it not as an act of aggression, but as a necessary evolution for national survival. To conclude this video, predicting day zero. So let's look at the calendar. When is day zero? Based on the current acceleration of enrichment, the perfection of their missile telemetry, and the upcoming 2026 election cycles in both the United States and the Middle East, we are entering a window of maximum risk. Mid-2026 is the convergence point. It is the moment where Iran's technical capabilities meet a period of potential political distraction in the West. This is the point where, for Tehran, the cost of waiting, be it those through sanctions or internal pressure, finally exceeds the cost of acting. The world is watching the enrichment levels, but they should be watching the deep tunnel complexes. There is one specific intelligence signal, a signature move involving these underground bunkers that will be the final warning that a test is imminent. I'll be breaking down the architectural secrets of those deep tunnels, sites, and why they are immune to conventional strikes in my next deep dive. I'm Ro, for the real stiff. Stay vigilant, watch the signals, and I'll see you on the next analysis. Once again, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. When our videos come, you don't miss out on them. Appreciate your time and appreciate your being here with us and listening. Thank you much. Once again, stay vigilant.